to everyone, the meeting. It's a pleasure to be here after some years, I guess it's been. So yeah, I kind of enjoy this sense of developing together, just checking in our time and time. Yeah, so as set and as opened with the meditation, that would be my invitation for the beginning of my story. I would share by sharing some story without any presentation. So I invite you to stay connected to yourself, to your body, and just see how it resonates for you. And then in the second part, I will take you outside a little bit, so to make it interactive and to get the energy moving throughout the conference. When I got invitation for that conference, I began with a question, which was partially answered now in a scientific manner, of course. How do the two interrelate? So how does the water and soil connect? Where are the common points? And how can they harmonize in sense of coherent unity? And as you will see, the nature of my work, the nature of my being is closely related to trees. So I've immediately got an image of a tree. That's why I've included it even in the title. And the knowing or the information came to me that I heard as a child in my first biological classes. So if you take a tree, a big trunk of tree, a piece of wood like this, you let it dry, or maybe it's dry already, and then you burn it. All that stays, or actually is left, is a tiny bit of ashes. Tiny bit of ashes from a majestic being that you see around. And this is what tree has taken from the soil. These are some minerals that are left and then, somehow decompose back to the soil. And everything else it created by itself also regulated the flow of water. So that's been an kind of intriguing information that stayed with me since. So how can trees become so majestic beings and then interrelate, connect, build forests, the systems? And they produce most of it by themselves. I mean, we do also some forest managing as humans, but even without us, they would be able to thrive, or actually they would thrive even more in this landscape that we are. And create all of it by navigating the source energy, the sun, the water that is around, and just growing. So using whatever is available in the soil. So that's been somehow the story, or actually also the ecological concept that I was offered when I was inquiring to it. And I will come back to the trees, but let me ground now a little bit that story and make it applicable and practical for our situation and where we are at. So if I scroll back 8-9 years in my life, in my journey, when I was coming from society to that place where I'm still now creating, so space by the forest, as we call it, I came with two separate awareness of these two topics. I was finishing my natural sciences, and my thesis was about cleaning the wastewaters. So my relationship to water at that point was a wish to purify, or how can we actually make it pristine as it once was? So I had a huge mental background, scientific, about the state of waters and what can we do to make it clean, accessible to us. And on the other hand, I came here with a huge enthusiasm, and all of the books about permaculture that I read, workshops that I attended, places that I've seen. So I came with this sense of inspiration about enriching the soil, making it available for us, for agriculture, for humans to use, and also bringing life, not just for us, but connecting, bringing different elements, beings into. So that was maybe a very separate view about the topics and how they were interrelated in my story a decade ago. So I was aware of water and soil and the influences it has. but through the lenses of human in me, yeah, they become a separate objects of focus on my journey, on co-creating the living space here. So if I come a few years ahead in the journey, I remember one year there was a huge drought. Yeah, the season was very dry. So the crops were not working well down at the field. But we have also a creek, that's the body of water that is here, growing in and flowing through the space. So I've come to that idea to install some sense of irrigation system, which was water pump, putting in the creek and bringing water to the soil. But that's the external journey. But internally, I started connecting these two elements within myself. So my inner water, my inner soil. That's how it was reflected to me. But of course, the journey takes some facilitation and catalysis to make. Because what happened with that pump? Soon afterwards, I've got a visit from the police. Because someone, which turned out then were fishermen, called the police that, yeah, I am using the natural resources to irrigate the farmland without the permission. Which also the police didn't know that this is against the law, that it is illegal, but the fishermen knew, and they had all of the legal rights, and the sense of diplomacy was at their hand. Anyhow, that story took on many turns, but it's just taught me about the intricacies in connecting the two elements, and many different beings that are influenced by it. So from my viewpoint as a human stand, and from everyone around, it was a logical move. But from the viewpoint of fishes, it wasn't, because I was possibly taking the water and their ecosystem that was endangered and that type of drought. So it was another lesson for me to be learned, and how to connect, interrelate with the two. So, of course, as these things on the outside is happening, I mean, one thing is to manage and to navigate with the systems, which I still don't trust that they can be the, I would say, resilient and operate with enough awareness. But okay, I left the system aside, I paid the fine, and that story is done now. But then I moved closer to the forest, to the place where I'm streaming from. And that's always for me an opportunity to tune into different awareness. Because when I'm working in the field and with the creek down, I'm working through my human operating system. So I'm a societal member and trying to find my way through that life here. But when I come up, tune in the forest, I've got answers, connections, and openings into the bigger picture. And I've been asking what's happening also with this story and in greater interconnection. So one of the things that came immediately to me were ancestors, the ones that passed on, but I'm living on ancestral farm, and their wish to work and to make that field nice. So even though I had my awareness, my ideas of permaculture, there were some elements that, yeah, just didn't work as science or people that had experience put it. Because the field that has been down there needed to be worked, let's call it in a classic way. So me using the tool and taking the weeds out without mulching, because then snails come. Or, yeah, afterwards I understand that that field and the elements of water to be particularly incorporated down there, I had to equalize and include my ancestors that were working from the etheric planes. And that's when I could start interrelating and finding better solutions in the connection. So that was, yeah, some of my generational patterns based on the ancestral karma that I tune into. But then I asked, where did the idea of me putting water from the creek on the field came on? And I've got connection or even the memories to some different times at this planet, and then also outwards, reaching into the cosmos, the beings that I came Andromedans, so coming from different constellations came to me, and they've illuminated their capacity to harness that flow that is in this moment represented by flow of water by the creek, and to use it as to nurture the seed of life, which are the plants and things that have been grown. They just didn't take fishes into their account. So that's why we had to find a solution that now works for all. But that's been, again, a bigger intersection into these affairs, which as long as I was just a small farmer or gardener down at the creek, I couldn't sort it out. So yeah, I feel with those stories, then I came to realize how many influences are there in navigating, creating, connecting the flow of the two. And to bring the sense of alchemy in the story, I would now change the position, move outside, include those elements, and make a coherent story. So maybe that would be also for myself the solution, how to connect and bring the two so that we as humans and also other beings can learn and teach from it. So maybe just a minute to move it. You can take a short break from me talking a lot.
Well, Miha, thank you very much for this very holistic approach to water and soil and your land. And what I could hear is that there is no one formula fits for all, that you really have to tap into the frequency of the local space. And as you mentioned, also to the ancestor spirit to integrate everything in order to move in the right direction. So completely different philosophy than we most of the time hear today with the industrial mindset. And what is so beautiful to see is that you actually prove that it works and you live off based on that philosophy very comfortably and nicely. And what we can see at the back is the new house that Miha had just built for himself. And he lives in it and he breathes the air and spirit and all other energies that are around him every day and integrates that in his actions. So it's really beautiful. And we're grateful that you are willing to share that with us. But go ahead, the last couple of moments of your presentation, please take us through.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks, Violeta, for commenting and including that brief summarization. So just to make short adjustments, the space that I'm working now, it's called a forest sanctuary. So that's a space that is shared for everyone. My forest house is a little bit further down. And I'm happy because it's my first virtual streaming from the space. So yeah, greetings from the sanctuary. And I wish you can feel or tune into the vibe of it. So now what we will do for the end actually is just planting a tree, because as I started at the beginning, the tree knows how to interrelate, connect those two elements. But what I wanted to include in this planting is just different elements. So first is a container. That's an ancestral pot. The people at this place were also artists, so they were creating many things from the clay, an element of soil. So it's just a condensation. That will be our container for a pot today, taking their offering, honoring their spirit, and as tree is still younger, it can grow well. Then it's going to be, I prepared in the morning, it's an oak tree. That's an offering from the woods, from the forest. And that's an offering from my house, because my house is built within those oak trees. And that's the offspring of them. No 3rd, 4 year old, so it's just ready to get transplanted. So it carries some of my own energies, and I feel that's good to include in that movement. Now I have many different soils, not many, 4 different types of compost, which I wouldn't go in the scientific background of it. I guess we would hear a little bit more afterwards. But yeah, just that the tree gets for the start some of nutritious soil. I'm talking about the compost that was created by different beings, by worms. Some is animal manure, and mostly degrading plants. So let this be a connection of all of those beings around us from the animal and plant kingdom that gave their life bodies for life to thrive. And for a sense of nutrients and accelerating the growth, these ashes that were made that were as burning the old trees are immediately being put back. It's the fine layer of soil at the end. And then what else can we add? Yeah, of course, water. I prepared the water from the source. So in the meantime, I found source of water in the woods, which is my morning routine to walk there 10 minutes there back. So it's an element of the source energies that is at this moment reflected by the water. And these are the basic elements of nature that I feel the tree can now successfully grow with it. Yeah, and I feel that the tree reflects or wants to serve as the guardian to what I've heard from Violeta speaking at the beginning. So to support the network of these spaces in Gaia, in land, that has awakened to that sense of interconnectivity within them. Of course, each space is doing this on their own unique individual way, but there are people that are carrying, embodying those frequencies that are stewards of these places. So it's just one element. The tree is just one element. You know, they can thrive and success just when they become a forest. So I am sharing the element of our space as to connect the two elements, and not just the two of nature, but also the others of us as humans, and to, yeah, anchor some of those energies and share with everyone included in the group and in the energetic space, so that the movement can become what it strives to. So at the end, I feel to add a tiny mushroom. It reflects the mycorrhiza, the network that will form naturally if the other trees or beings come around. But right now, as long as it is in the pot, the mushroom, which is amethyst crystal, will help to anchor some of those frequencies and bring some of the fairy energy to it, so that each one of you can take an element from that fairyland and dream your own dream into this reality. I feel Gaia will welcome all of us.